Hi, welcome to the Steady Within podcast. I'm Ashley Jangro, your host, and I'm a therapist and life coach who works with people who are tired of being controlled by their thoughts and their emotions and who are ready to experience a life of calm and confidence. So, if you've ever felt like your emotions are running the show instead of you, or if you've thought something like, I should be able to handle this better, then you're in the right place. I started this podcast because I want to share something with you. Learning to regulate your emotions and retrain your thought patterns is like having a superpower. These skills can literally transform every area of your life, from your relationships to your health, to your career, even your family's mental health legacy. I know this because I've lived it. And today I want to share a little bit about my story with you, how I went from a completely broke and barely functioning single mom getting ready to move into my friend's basement to running a six-figure business and literally saving my father's life. But more importantly, I want to share the three things with you that made this transformation possible. Because, like I said, learning these skills will enable you to completely change any area of your life that you wish to. So, let me take you back a few years. I was newly divorced and raising my three little girls. And I had reached a financial point where I was going to have to move in to my friend's basement. I was incredibly grateful for the opportunity, but also feeling really down on myself that I had reached that point in life. I was essentially living off of boxed wine at that point whenever my girls were not with me and just in a really bad place. I remember I have a very clear memory of laying in my bed one day. It was probably around 11 in the morning because I struggled to get out of bed at that point. And having what I believed to be this realization about myself. I remember very clearly laying there and thinking, I have no power to change this. In my mind, I had completely lost my power. And this was such a major shift from who I had believed myself to be before. I used to believe that I was one of those people that could just make things happen. Whatever I wanted in life, I'd be able to do that. And then this day that I was laying in my bed, I genuinely believed that I was just learning this new fact about myself. I remember thinking, well, I guess I'm just not one of those people. I genuinely believed myself to be a victim of what I would have referred to at the time as my anxiety or my depression. These seemed to just be normal states. And I started thinking or realizing I was just going to be one of those people that could not do big things with my life. I felt like I had completely lost my power, and I felt like I could not trust myself to get that back. I didn't trust myself to get up and do what needed to be done to start earning money again. I didn't trust myself to be able to continuously show up to a job because I believed I was a victim to my mental health. And I didn't trust myself to take the actions that were necessary to make any changes in my life. I didn't even believe myself to be a victim of my external circumstances. I believed myself to be a victim of myself. Again, I lost that trust in myself. Now let's fast forward to just a few short years later. I got a phone call one day. It was my dad letting me know that he had gone into kidney failure. The doctors told us that things were so severe that if he had arrived at the hospital even one day later, he probably would not have made it. And they let us know that he was in desperate need of a kidney transplant and that his position on the wait list put him at risk. He probably would not survive long enough to get a kidney transplant. And without hesitation, I was able to let them know that I was willing to be a living kidney donor. I wasn't even a blood match, but I was willing to donate anyway so that he could get on the exchange program. Now, this was actually a huge shift because, as I mentioned, I had been, again, a few years earlier, surviving off of boxed wine. I was drinking far more than I wanted to a few years before this happened. And at that time, when I had believed that I had no power, there's no way I would have stepped up to become a kidney donor because I would have been afraid of what all of the tests would reveal about my health. I would have been so scared that people would know how much I was drinking, even though, if I'm being completely honest, they definitely did know, but I could still pretend that they didn't. But because of the work that I had done, because of the three things that I'm going to share with you that I had learned, I had regained my power. I wasn't afraid to feel any emotions any longer. And so I knew whatever came up, I could handle. Now, I didn't end up ultimately donating my kidney. There was a lot of delays due to COVID, but it took about a year for us to get through all of the process of being tested for this and to ultimately getting on that exchange list. And during that time, I had to speak to many social workers, many counselors who all told me about all of these different things that might come up during the process, that I might donate and my dad still might not survive, and that then I would feel like a failure. It did not matter. I knew I had this trust in myself that no matter what came up, I knew I would be able to handle it. And during that time, I was sharing this all on social media. As my cousin watched this, she reached out and let us know that she was a blood match and that because she had watched this process, she was willing to donate, which was such an incredible thing for her to do. And she ended up doing so. And my dad's in a completely different place now. The important takeaway to me about that, now, obviously not to my cousin and my dad, they had very other important takeaways, but was that I had regained my power. I had regained my self trust. It was this process that I had started of learning how to manage my thoughts and my emotions. And I could make decisions that started a chain reaction that ultimately resulted in my dad's life being saved. And this was such a dramatic shift from just a few years earlier when I didn't believe I had that power anymore. I didn't have that self trust. And so I want to share with you the three realizations I had that really created this shift in me. The first one was that my thoughts are not facts. And this one still challenges me sometimes because our thoughts feel like facts, don't they? I used to believe that whatever popped into my head was simply an observation about reality. If I thought she's mad at me, or if I thought I'm failing, I'm not good at this, those thoughts felt true. Now I know that each one of our thoughts or sentences in our brain or narratives are just one of an infinite number of possible interpretations at any given moment. These thoughts exist because of my past experiences, my trauma, my upbringing, our culture, whether I'm hungry or tired or didn't sleep well the night before. Our thoughts are all because of those situations, but they feel like facts. And now I know they are not. The second one is that my emotions are not dangerous. And this was huge for me. I made so many decisions in my life to avoid feeling anxiety or to protect myself from that anxiety becoming too intense, to avoid feeling sadness, to avoid feeling any uncomfortable emotion. Shame was a big one for me, anybody else's judgment. And I thought these emotions in my body were dangerous. Now I know that emotions are not emergencies. I can feel scared and do things anyway. I can feel sad without believing something's gone wrong. And number three of the most important things that I learned is that I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. My brain is this incredibly powerful machine that's designed to keep me alive. But those thoughts running through my head, those stories, those narratives, they're not me. I'm an observer of my thoughts. I'm the one who gets to choose which stories to keep, which ones I believe that I want and are helpful to me, and which ones that I can release. And here's the thing that really changed everything for me: understanding that our brains are neuroplastic and I can retrain my neural pathways to think differently by default. This helps me so much because I don't have to be consistently analyzing what are my thoughts and how can I think differently and reframing my thoughts. I can retrain my brain so that I have a different experience in life by default. These three realizations didn't just change my thinking, they completely changed my life. I don't consider myself to have anxiety or depression anymore. I still experience those emotions, but I know how to handle them. I know how to keep them at a manageable level. I can do scary things now as a result. I'm not afraid to feel anything, so I can do anything. I have my self trust and my power back. I can do scary things like build a business. I don't hurt all the time anymore. I no longer feel like a victim to my internal experience. But it's not just me. My clients are also creating incredible transformations. I had one client who had weekly panic attacks for 10 years, debilitating panic attacks. And when he learned the skills that I'm going to teach you over the next several episodes, anxiety still existed in his life, but no longer became a problem. He learned to process that anxiety instead and no longer became afraid of it. And the panic attacks completely disappeared. I have clients who have completely changed their relationship with food because they learned to feel their emotions instead of needing to avoid them using food or any other substance. I have clients who, again, stopped relying on substances because they could finally handle those uncomfortable feelings and didn't need those, and who knew how to create new habits around those substances so they didn't continue to be an issue. I have clients who have started businesses or who have gotten high paying jobs because they weren't controlled by their thoughts and emotions any longer, and they could step out and do the uncomfortable things. When I learned to regulate my emotions instead of numbing them, I stopped needing alcohol to cope with my feelings. I no longer struggle with over drinking. I still enjoy boxed wine, but I could choose to drink it now instead of needing it to be able to cope. When I learned that my thoughts weren't facts, I could handle thoughts like, this is too scary, or who are you to do this? And then I could build that business. And when I learned I wasn't my thoughts, that I was not controlled by my thoughts and emotions, I could show up and be there for my dad in his medical crisis without being controlled by fear. Now, when intense emotions come up, I process them like a champ. I reframe my thoughts to create narratives so that I can continue to show up and do hard things and boring things and whatever it is that need to be done. I don't catastrophize anymore. I don't over dramatize. I just figure out what it is that I'm thinking. I process the emotions around it. And then I figure out what I need to believe so that I can take the actions that will get me the outcomes I want. My kids have even picked this up for me. They started regulating their emotions because they watched me modeling this. I was able to literally change my family's mental health legacy by changing myself first. And everything I just shared comes from a really simple framework that I created to teach my clients this that I call AERO, AERO. This is what I teach in therapy, and this is what I teach in coaching to help my clients create these same sort of transformations. So the A stands for awareness, awareness and acceptance. This is learning to notice what's happening in your body, what's happening with your emotions, and what's happening with your thoughts without any judgment. The E stands for emotional regulation. This is feeling emotions without being controlled by them. This, my friends, is like having a superpower because, again, I say it all the time. When you're not afraid to feel anything, you can do anything. And then the R stands for reframing or reframe to retrain. This is challenging those unhelpful stories, thoughts, narratives in your brain, and then retraining those neural pathways to think differently by default. And then the O stands for ownership. Taking ownership of your own outcomes. This is taking responsibility for your responses and then understanding your values that you hold so you can choose how you want to show up. Over the next 4 episodes of the Steady Within podcast, I'm going to walk you through each of these, and I'm going to teach you exactly how I teach my clients to do each one of these steps so that you can learn to create whatever transformation it is that you want in your life as well. Because here's what I want you to know. You don't have to stay stuck in reactivity. You don't have to be controlled by your emotions. You don't have to maintain a small life because you're afraid of feeling uncomfortable things. The steadier you become within yourself, the more everything else in your life stabilizes and you can move forward with that calm and that confidence. This allows you to have more freedom, more power, and more decisions in your life. I've created a free resource called the Steady Within Method that breaks down a lot of the different tools that I use to create these results in my own life as well. You can find the link in the show notes, in the video description, wherever it is that you're watching or listening to this, it'll be in the description so that you can start using these tools in your life too, because you deserve to feel steady, confident, and in control of your inner world so that you can create the world around you that you want. And it all starts with becoming steady within. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time.